So picking the Springbok team to take on England in the June tests, plus one test against Wales. It was a hard process. Let me just say that I agonized over it a lot. I had 3 different teams at different points. Really trying to fit some guys who play the same positions all into the team at the same time proved really difficult. I had to do a bit of reading on Saru selection criteria, the quota. So that was a bit of learnings for me because being from New Zealand, I'm all unfamiliar with that kind of stuff. I just knew it existed, but I've got a better understanding of that now. Also, let me say that I try to go into the videos as kind of a blank slate with my own thoughts. But for this one, before I picked it, I did actually watch a video by Unbiased Rugby. I'll link to his video in my description because consciously or not, there's probably some influence there on my picks as well. So I'll just put that out there so you guys can compare. This team I've picked is definitely not what Rassie will pick. I've kind of thought about it as if he's got a really long contract. He's got 2 World Cups on his contract. So let's go with a young team. Average age is about 25. Bit of experience, but also try to build for the future. Blood some young guys and see how they go. You can kind of weed the guys out who are perhaps limited to Super Rugby level and can't make the step up for tests. You got plenty of time to do it, so might as well get it started now. Also, I should say that I don't follow other competitions other than Super Rugby as much as I should. So for a lot of the overseas box, I haven't seen how they're going. I've read up a bit on some of them and see how they've been going in terms of injuries and performances and whatnot. But definitely not as familiar with those guys. So also definitely lean towards the Super Rugby guys to start with. There's a plethora of talent there, so I don't see any reason to go abroad unless it's absolutely necessary. And plus I'm focusing on youth, and it's mostly the older guys who head overseas, to be fair. So front row, I've gone for Beast, Aka van der Merwe and Trevor Inyekani. So 2 guys who are kind of senior members. So Beast 32 with over 100, I don't think it's tests, but 100 caps for the box. Inyekani 29, he's got closer to 50. Aka van der Merwe is 26 and never played for the box. Hooker is the easiest question to answer for the Springboks as long as Malcolm Marx is fit. It doesn't really matter who's playing on the bench as long as you got Marx starting. But with Malcolm Marx out, it becomes a whole nother question. So it was one position I thought about for a long time. There's been a lot of talk of calling back Bismarck du Plessis, but he's 32. It'd just be a short-term replacement. I'm not sure it's the right answer, although as much as we'd love to see the big guy back. I've gone for Aka because at 26 I feel like he's got the potential to be a backup for Malcolm going in future, and he's a really dynamic player who's been in really good form. Beast and Trevor, a bit of experience on either side of Aka to kind of keep things settled. Both guys in their early 30s, late 20s, so perhaps not going to play much more than 45-50 minutes, but then you bring on guys. I've got Ralapele, Lowe and Kitshoff on the bench. So Ralapele is another experienced hand. Kitshoff as well, but Lowe's only played a handful of games for the box, so I think it's a good idea to, rather than have Ralapele start. He's been rotating in and out of the Sharks anyway. Put him on the bench with Kitshoff and Lowe to mix up the experience and the inexperience together. Kitshoff and Lowe are really dynamic players, so I feel like as the opposition is tiring, it's good to bring on those guys as fresh legs, as they will really test the opposition defence, which is going to become a familiar theme with this team I've picked. In the locks, without Diacha and Etzebeth, honestly, those 2, 4 and 5 just pick themselves when you're picking the Springboks. Marx, Diacha, Etzebeth, that's it. But none of them are available. So I've gone with Snyman from the Bulls. He's been impressive. He is legitimate tall timber. He is 2.06 meters, which is not that much shorter than the Arnold brothers. And Detroit is a bit more of a mobile lock. So he's still 2 meters, so he's tall enough to be a proper lock, but he's also got that mobile game and a ground game as well. So I think that'd be a good combo. Sneijman obviously uncapped, but Dutoit's been around for a while, so again, a good mix of experience and inexperience. Sneijman's only 23, Dutoit's only 25, so still pretty young, looking forward to World Cup 2019 and beyond. I've got Mostert on the bench as his lock cover. He's a tackling machine as well, so he's a good guy to bring on if you want to hold on to a lead, and also can play on the flank if needed. In loose forwards, I've gone with Siya Kolisi on the open side, Jean-Luc Dupree on the blind side, and Kwaka Smith not on the flank, but I've got him at number 8. He's kind of been in and out of the 6 and 8 jerseys for the Lions this year. He's been good enough at 8 that I'm happy to pick him there because I want Kolisi and Dupree in the squad as well. So I think there's a good mix there. Dupree is like top 4 for tackle busts this year, so he's your man to go forward. Kolisi is not a traditional fetcher on the open side, but he's he's versatile. He can bust it up when he needs to. His ground game is not, he's not like a Matt Todd traditional fetcher. He's not Sam Cane, but he's kind of a hybrid. So I think with Kwaka Smith, who's kind of a flank come number 8, there's a good mix there that they can kind of do the job. Smith's stats, I wasn't going to initially have him in, but when I was looking up the stats of these guys, like run meters, tackle busts, tackles, he's just always there. So it was really hard for me to not pick him. So yeah, good mix. The one guy I've gone who's not in Super Rugby in the forwards is Opa Mohoje from the Cheetahs, who's playing in the Pro 14. Haven't seen much of the Pro 14 this year, so it's hard to say. I've picked him largely on reputation. Basically, again, is their battering ram. I want him targeting tired players on the opposition and just running straight over them. So I'm quite happy to tell Jean-Luc Dupree just to go bananas for the first 60 minutes and then bring on Mohoje for the last 20. See how it goes. Yeah, definitely a bit of size. Definitely not a big, like, traditional Springbok forward pack. Dupree is tackle buster, but he's not like Willem Albert's kind of size. And Smith's definitely not a huge guy either, but I think there's a good combination of size and skill to do the job. In the backs, de Klerk's the other, he's the only overseas guy I've gone for, and the only other guy outside of Super Rugby. I've not been that thrilled with any of the scrum halves. I mean, some of them have been good, but I still think de Klerk, from all reports, has been having a great time at Sale, and we'll bring him back, see how he goes. He is one of the guys touted to come back from overseas for the Springbok squad, so I'm going to kind of go with that. He's never really set the Springbok jersey on fire. Like there's talk that he was kind of a disappointment and maybe they shouldn't bring him back, but I think he's still got more to offer. He is also only 26, so 11 caps. He's not had enough of a run in the Springbok jersey to really give us a definitive answer of how well he can perform, but let's give him a shot. In the 10 jersey, this was a hard one. I've ended up going with Elton Jantjies. I initially had Pollard there, but then when I was messing around with the midfield, like I had Esterhuizen in at one point when I was looking for size, I decided to go with the dual playmaker thing, like similar to what England do sometimes and Aussie do when they put Beale at 12. Jantjies and Pollard, so you got two playmakers there. Pollard obviously runs the ball a bit more. When he's played at 12, I thought he's looked good. I didn't see all of that game against the Jaguars where he played at 12, but I didn't see anything in what I saw that said he was terrible. So I'm interested to see how they will go as that double playmaking combination to see if they can get some moves going. Both guys can kick goals, so whoever's in better form there can kick it. Jantjies has definitely been good at kicking for touch with penalties. I've really admired his accuracy there. So it's a different one. I doubt Rassie will go with that, but I'm going with that. Outside Pollard, I've put Rassie I'm. Again, this is the one where you're thinking, oh man, where's the size? Where's the beef? But I'm is, for a guy who's been defensively sound all season, his offensive game is coming along as well. He scored some tries. He's shown a bit of gas, shown he can beat a man. So I'm happy to have him helping hold the line because you've essentially got two fly halves in there, although Pollard's pretty solid as well. Yanchi's defence, good enough, I think. But having Arm outside both those guys just helps to shore things up a bit. But then I've put Damien Delende in there on the bench. I was going to have Esterhazen, but when I look at tackle busts, Delende is actually outdoing him in terms of average tackle bust per game this season. So I've gone with Damien Delende on the bench. Plus, with Pollard, he can move into 10 if needed. If you want to sub Elton off, Arm can play 12 in a pinch if needed. Then I've also got Jesse Creel on the bench as well. He can cover 15. He can cover 13. I really wanted Creel in the starting lineup because I think he's been in good form with the Bulls. Really good playmaking skills. But just to go with the Pollard and Yanchi's combination, I had to put him on the bench for now. I feel like if you had Yanchi's, Pollard, and Creel, it may be just too much going for playmaking and not going for that defensive balance as well. On the wings, I've gone with Afua Dianti. He is a young, hot prospect. He's looking like he's got a lot of potential, so I might as well give him a crack to see if he can. He's only played a handful of Super Rugby games, but I'm happy to give him a crack here to see how well he goes at the test level. And Dylan Lades on the other wing, probably better at fullback, but he's so versatile. He can play most of the positions in the back line, and plus I got 2 centres on the bench, so there's no need for him to worry about that. So he can play 10, 11, 14, 15 if needed. So I got that flexibility there. And Galant at 15, he's just been outstanding this season. Can play on the wing in a pinch. That's the one thing I don't like about this squad, is that there's no kind of specialist wing cover. Galant can jump over to 11 if needed. He's not got probably the experience that you would want to chuck him in at an international level game, but if needs be, you can do that. And yes, Ambrose Papier on the bench for halfback cover behind Faf de Klerk. He's only 21 and he is quick. So that's the thought behind this bench. As you got Mahoje as a battering ram. Papier, the one thing that John Mitchell really likes about him is his speed. So you add some speed to the game later on. Delende is going to bust you some tackles, and Creel can also add a bit of playmaking punch if you need it. Both guys, Delende can play on the wing as well if really needed. Creel can jump onto fullback. So there's a bit of flexibility, there's a bit of playmaking, a bit of defense. I'm really building this bench as a impact bench. So they're gonna, if the game's tight with 60, this is the bench that I believe is going to push the team over the edge to get the win. So that's my thoughts. It's definitely not what Rassie is going to pick. It's far too experimental, I think. In terms of guys that they're looking at bringing back, from what I've read, Pat Lambie's injured, so it won't be him. I don't know if Lambie would make the squad anyway. Who do you put Lambie in for? I don't know. Franz Stein's another one. I don't see the need for him, even though he's a bit of bulk. I'd rather see Esterhazen get a go if you wanted to bring in a big kind of midfield guy. Vermeulen's another one. Faf de Klerk's been mentioned as well. I'm keen for that one. De Jong and Koch. I don't know. I don't see it's needed, although it is nice to have those old familiar names. I think Steve Hansen said, you can't always keep the old guys. You need to have a mix of the old guys and the new guys. So I'm happy to go with fairly young guys. I think there's only one guy in his 30s, and two. Relapelli and the Beast are the only guys in their 30s. Everyone else is in their 20s. So it's a young enough team. Looking to test some guys out for World Cup 2019 and to build that depth for 2023. Remember, there's no Marks, no Diaga, no Etzebeth, no Whiteley, and the list goes on of players unavailable, but I still think there's a fair bit of talent here. Yeah, as I said before, it's just totally out of the box thinking. It's not going for size. I'm going for a fair bit of playmaking and some punch off the bench. It might be a bit crazy, but yeah, I wanted to do something a bit different. So that's the team. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments. And yeah, all of these guys, I should say, are available and injury-free as of recording this video. But that could change on a day-to-day basis. So we'll see how things go. Anyway, I will talk to you guys again for another one soon. See you later.